British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak earlier this week won a vote in Parliament on an emergency bill that will see asylum seekers sent to Rwanda. Sunak's victory was, however, met with pushback from some lawmakers within his party, sparking sentiment that there's no full control in that party. We take a look at the deal to send some asylum seekers in Britain to Rwanda. We are now joined by Dr. Doris Uwicyeza Picard, Chief Legal Advisor for the Migration Partnership in Rwanda. Thank you very much, Doc, for taking time out to speak to us. We understand you are quite busy this afternoon, so maybe let's get into why Rwanda chose to partner with the United Kingdom on what has been termed a controversial deal. What was the thinking behind it?
Yes, we recognize that this has been a rather controversial deal, but to understand what made Rwanda go into this partnership is to understand Rwanda as well. It's our aspirations as a country are informed by our history, and we are a nation of refugees. Most of us have been refugees at some point, internally displaced. I myself was a refugee, and we always aspire to be a country of solutions, not just one that is exporting problems. We want to be a country of solutions and of opportunities. This is why we partnered with the UK to provide this refuge, to provide a place of refuge for refugees, because we know what it is like to be refugees. And we want to provide a place of opportunities for both refugees and migrants, because we recognize that once opportunities are provided on the home front, by the home front, I mean the global south, obviously, there will not be these illegal, irregular migrations which place people at risk, and it places them in the hands of people smugglers. If we can break down that business that people smuggling business while bringing opportunities here in Africa for people. So I think that's where we can really provide an innovative solution to this migration crisis.
Doc, what is the understanding of irregular migration, more so when we speak maybe for where we are, which is home on the African continent? What is the understanding? Because you speak to some researchers and they'll tell you that intercontinental migration is much higher than people who are attempting to make perilous journeys across the seas. And so when you speak of illegal, irregular migration and trying to stop people, what is the understanding, more so when we speak of the push and pull factors that lead people to leave their countries?
Yes. When we speak of illegal migration, it always it has its basis in the laws of receiving countries. That's when countries will have more open borders than others. It's all relative to the laws of the respective countries. However, irregular migration are not those migrations that always happen, which is mostly a back and forth. You know, people do not intend to leave the country for good. They go for business, for tourism. These are all regular, controlled, in a sense, migration. Whereas irregular migration is really caused by a lot of factors, the root cause of which is economic imbalance, the imbalance in economic opportunities. And that's where you see, and I think this is something that resonates with South Africa as well, as it is one of the key issues which regards irregular migration to South Africa. You have people that are looking for these opportunities abroad, people that are looking for safety and refuge abroad. So we want to be one of those countries that can provide that. We know what it's like to be a refugee, as I said. So this is a response. It's not the solution, but it's one of the solutions that will prove, once started, to be quite effective.
Doc, I think we're on the same page. It's not the what, but however, I think the how is the issue of contention, more so when you take a look at creating a continent that is where we can all afford to be economic migrants, and we can all afford to up and leave and go somewhere else because you want better opportunities. And I can come to what is now termed the conferencing capital of the African continent. However, what role does leadership play, right? So President Paul Kagame is somebody who is very aware of what is going on in the continent. Are we hearing his voice talking to his counterparts about the situation in their countries that leads people to make perilous journeys? Are we hearing those voices where leaders on the continent are holding each other accountable? Are we on the same page about the vision that we want for this Africa? Not that we need to, I don't know if we need to, but just trying to find the reasoning in terms of the reason why people move out is because it's not nice at home. Do we speak to each other? Do we tell each other, hey, fix this, fix that, so your people don't have to move?
Yes, and I think if you recall, as chairperson of the African Union at some point, the President Kagame was really pushing for the Continental Trade Agreement, which is one of the key solutions to if we promote the free flow of goods and services across the continent and we become more interconnected than we are at the moment, right? This is one of the factors that will have a very positive effect on this issue of migration. So this is why I believe these conversations happen, and these conversations are always relegated to specific sectors, whether it's economy, peace and security, but these are all interconnected because they do have an effect on migration. And President Kagame has been a champion throughout of this concept. If you recall the ETM mechanism whereby Africans were being trapped in Libya, enslaved, put on slave auctions on the block as if it was a few hundred years ago. These are images that shocked the world and mostly Africa. And our president came forward with a solution. How about we evacuate them to Rwanda? And this is something that we've been doing in partnership with the African Union and UNHCR to evacuate these migrants from Libya into Rwanda, where they can recuperate, they can be provided with safety and opportunities, and the opportunity to remain in Rwanda would they wish to do so. But there's also that recognition of sharing of responsibilities. Just because Rwanda is providing a solution, it doesn't mean it should be isolated in this solution. So we partnered with all those countries that could provide a third country to these migrants from Libya. So this is something that is embedded in our history and in the leadership of this country, to find solutions, to partner with those who can provide these resources, to share responsibilities. And this is something also, I don't know if you recall when Kabul fell to the Taliban a few years ago, we had a school of Afghani girls who were seeing their future in a dire situation, and we imported the entirety of the school to Rwanda with their families, and they live now very happily, and the school is recruiting schoolgirls, Afghani schoolgirls in refugee camps so they can come and continue their education. And this is, again, in partnership with all those who are able and willing to help us provide these solutions. So I think leadership is very, very key in this, and President Kagame has been at the forefront of providing solutions.
How that should we understand that, Doc, with concerns about human rights in Rwanda, more so with the examples that you have cited, because the narrative that is also being built around this is that, well, Rwanda does not have a good human rights record.
Yes. I think you will find that narratives are a very political thing, and narratives are driven by political actors with their own agendas. And if you were to come to Rwanda, and this is that there's a disconnect between this narrative and the reality on the ground, and this is something that I always tell everybody, come to Rwanda, see for yourself. For instance, we have been partnering with the UNHCR. We have 130,000 refugees from DRC and Burundi, and that have been catered for, accommodated here in Rwanda. So the Rwanda that you hear about in certain narratives that are pushed by certain political actors has no basis in reality.
Here's another narrative that is being built, and maybe you can help us understand it, because there's over 136,000 awaiting asylum seekers in the United Kingdom. Of that number, how many will Rwanda be absorbing?
Of that number, we are scaling up capacity very, very fast. So we want to be able, and we currently have a capacity in the thousands, and we're scaling up very fast. We want people to come here and have opportunities and be self-sufficient and self-reliant. We're not here to create a welfare community. We are going to provide them with these tools. So this is something that showcases the commitment from Rwanda's side and from UK's side to provide all these tools to ensure a successful integration into the community. So we have the capacity, we're building up the capacity, and we'll be able to take on as many as possible.
What will qualify an asylum seeker to be absorbed into Rwanda?
What would qualify an asylum seeker to be absorbed into Rwanda? Obviously, everyone who comes here will be assessed individually for their asylum refugee status. Those who qualify for refugee status will be given refugee status in the incumbent rights and privileges, whereas those who are not refugees, we will assess them for any other humanitarian protection need they might have. And those who do not have humanitarian protection need will still be given permanent residence in the country.
This one can't imagine as a cheap exercise. At last count, a figure of £120 million was cited. But with the latest development in the United Kingdom, it is said that now is going to be a head count in terms of how much is allocated. Just how much is Rwanda going to be benefiting monetary-wise?
Yes, and I think this. I think it's a cynical view of the world to try to divide it by money per head. Right? We are talking about human beings, and we think their dignity is priceless. So we cannot view this in that lens. With that being said, this is not just a migration partnership, it's an economic development partnership. So any monies that have been given to Rwanda are to cater for this economic development partnership, because we recognize that in order to be able to provide these opportunities for migrants and Rwandans, we have to be able to develop the various sectors to meet our Vision 2050 objectives.
So we don't have a figure as yet, Doc?
A figure in terms of?
In terms of just how much Rwanda will be benefiting. Or maybe benefiting is the wrong word, but is there a figure that is where to facilitate the process?
I think it's an ongoing conversation of economic development cannot just be pigeonholed into a specific amount. I think it's all about the needs of Rwanda versus that is to be balanced with what the UK can offer.
Okay. Is Rwanda aware in terms of the refugees that are still in the United Kingdom, what their needs are, which countries they are from, and what happens, right? So after they've been assessed and they're accepted into Rwanda in terms of integration, but maybe let's start with where are some of the refugees from?
We understand that the majority of the refugees are of Middle Eastern origin. Although there are some Africans as well. Just looking at the profile of people who are most vulnerable to these dangerous crossings of the Channel, we're talking about Middle Eastern origin and Horn of Africa. And we view migration in Rwanda as a strength. Migrants are here to strengthen, and by their diversity, they strengthen societies. So really, when we talk about their integration, they will be provided, as I said earlier, with tools to successfully integrate in Rwandan community. We will have language courses, vocational programs. So we are putting in place various long-term mechanisms to ensure their successful integration in our society. And we are very much looking forward to receiving them in Rwanda.
Maybe especially more so when you speak about the human capital investment, is there an understanding of more so the Middle Eastern refugees? What drove them out of their spaces?
Yes, the factors that drive to migration are numerous. You have conflict, economic disadvantages, climate change that feeds into these economic disadvantages. So the circumstances that push them towards that to undertake these dangerous journeys are the root core of are many. So we cannot really address all of them all at once by Rwanda, but we can address some of them, which is the human capital imbalance. And this is something that our partners in the UK also understand very well and have been quite committed partners in this agreement. Sure.
How long is the agreement for, Doc? So how long can the refugees stay in the country?
The refugees are here to stay permanently, unless the refugees and migrants, because not all of them qualify as refugees. The refugees and migrants are will be given leave to stay indefinitely. Some of them might choose to relocate back to their country of origin if they feel they have successfully achieved what it is they set out to do, or if the situation that drove them away from their country has now ceased. We're talking conflicts in multiple parts of Middle East. Some conflicts have ceased, whereas some have picked up, unfortunately. So we're not bringing people here to keep them here. We want to give them opportunities. In fact, one of the first things that we'll be giving these people is travel documents so that they can travel, come back to Rwanda as their home.
Doc, just very quickly, I do beg your pardon, and I'm being pressed for time, but I do wonder what you've made of the reaction, more so here at home, because there's a lot being said, oh, we need to do something about the migration crisis, and then here you are as a country doing it for the reasons that you have outlined to us at least, and still you can't satisfy everybody there. What has been your assessment of the reaction since Rwanda participated in this?
I think some of it was to be expected. Unfortunately, some other part, whereas Rwanda, that is welcoming these migrants and refugees to provide them a life of opportunity and dignity, is the one that is bearing the brunt of criticism. That was quite disheartening to see. However, we are keenly aware of who we are as a nation, and that we will always, as we chart the course towards really bold and innovative ways, we are always at the receiving end of criticism. But we know that in the end, our results speak for themselves, and people always come right back around to us. So we are confident that once this partnership is implemented in place and people see how it is working well and how it is helping people, I think they will come around, just like they did for ETM mechanism, where we were evacuating people from Libya, just like the schoolgirl for Afghanis, just like every other initiative that has been quite bold and heard of. So it's not unexpected that something that is new would be met with criticism, but we're ready for that.
It's the way of the world. Thank you very much, Doc, for your time and your contribution this afternoon. Dr. Doris Uwicyeza, Picard, Chief Legal Advisor for the Migration Partnership in Rwanda.